Back in the 50s and 60s, pheasant hunting reigned supreme in many parts of the Midwest, but especially Iowa. Opening day had a special status as several generations would gather at the family farm or other coveted properties to match wits with the king of the upland birds. These experiences remain with us for a lifetime and become memories from the field. And welcome to another episode of Memories from the Field. Our guest tonight is Tom Riccardi, an avid bird hunter from the Kansas City area. And Tom has a strong love of waterfowl hunting. He does some upland, but probably one of his true loves is getting in the duck or goose blind. But he's owned many labs, which are his gun dogs of choice, and we're going to talk about some of those. Well, I think his first dog, I even had a chance to hunt over many years ago in South Dakota. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Well, glad to be here, Wade.
Did I get that right, that probably waterfowl hunting kind of was how you kind of cut your first teeth on bird hunting? Is that kind of where you went?
Yeah, I started out waterfowl. I didn't have the opportunity really to hunt when I was young. Nobody from my family was really avid outdoorsmen. I liked fishing and the such. So my first experience wasn't till I was at the ripe age of 22, after I had graduated from college and had gotten out in my working life. One of my business partners was an avid outdoorsman, and we fished together plenty of times. And he's just like, "Hey, you need to come duck hunting with me sometime." And quite frankly, back then I was really like, "Okay, let me get this straight. You want me to wake up at 4:00 in the morning, go sit out in the cold and the rain, and we're going to shoot birds. Okay, and that's what you consider fun."
Sign me up.
Yeah, that's not exactly the way it went, but nonetheless, he picked me up that morning. I was, of course, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed after a weekend night out, and proceeded to go to a farm pond of some private property of some friends of ours and set up our little duck blind. And he brought his ancient dog. I think his dog at the time was like 15 years old, a black lab named Willie. And, it was, again, my first time in the field. It's still dark out. He's putting out decoys. I'm still scratching my head at like, what are we doing here? But as the sun rose, I was like, this is like beautiful. I've never sat out and kind of soaked this in. And I'll never forget. We didn't have a ton of activity that morning, but by gosh, we had a couple of ducks fly over, and he starts blowing a duck call, and I'm like, "You've got to be kidding." That noise is going to, and then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, here they come. This is pretty unbelievable." And sure enough, they make one pass, they come in, and he drops one of the birds, and old Willie, God love him, lumbers out into the water and brings this duck back. And I mean, I was like, okay, this is pretty darn cool. I could see myself doing this. So that was my first time ever in the field, upland or waterfowl hunting.
Now, did you get a duck that day?
Oh gosh, no.
Okay.
I don't think I got a duck until about my fourth outing out in the field. I mean, I literally had no practice shooting moving objects. I might have shot some stationary things, as a kid with a 22 or something like that, but never a moving target. And that's quite a bit different.
And those ducks are pretty fast, and they dive and dart and everything else, so it can be pretty challenging. I'm guessing you had lots of opportunities. You just didn't bring one. You didn't bring one down, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say yes. I whiffed on quite a few opportunities, but my business partner was very patient, and I started getting that affinity for it to where I was just like, man, I couldn't wait to get up and go do all that over again. And at the time, I couldn't afford decoys and waders and a shotgun. Everything was begged and borrowed, and but I just couldn't wait for the next time he was asking me duck hunting. So
now you got your fourth time out, you got a duck. It sounds like. What do you can you set that up for us? What was that like? What do you remember about that whole experience?
I don't remember a lot. Just the shock that I actually hit something. I don't think the first couple of times I even fired my gun, and to be all honest, but that fourth time, I remember it was, oddly enough, it was a black duck, which if you're a waterfowl hunter, I don't know that I've seen another one since. And we were hunting at a farm pond. That's about all I remember.
Yeah. But it sounds like, nevertheless, though, the hook sunk into you as part of this is something I want to continue to do.
Yes,
when it comes to
absolutely.
Hunting.
Yeah, I thought duck hunting was awesome. Again, that was my first experience. I think it was the next year that I actually had an opportunity to go upland hunting. And again, it was with my business partner and his dad and his brother and uncle. We were hunting up near Hiawatha, Kansas. And again, begged, borrowed, and stealed. Well, I didn't steal, but begged and borrowed whatever equipment I was using. And I do remember that first outing. It was the very end of the day, and I actually dropped a rooster with this ancient 16 gauge automatic that I had. That was pretty fun, I must say. I was pretty proud of myself.
Yeah, wow. And I'm guessing, so what year would that have been? About early 90s?
Let's see, that would have been, waterfowl would have been 94, and the upland was the next year, so that was 95. And again, like I said, I didn't have the money to go out and buy all that stuff, but by gosh, I knew that I was hooked at this point. I knew I wanted to pursue this more as a hobby. So I started saving my pennies for a new shotgun, and I'm pretty confident I bought that in 1996. I got a Benelli M1.
Oh, wow.
And I still is my favorite. It's my firearm of choice. Definitely waterfowl, and most of the time pheasant hunting.
Was that the shotgun you were carrying in South Dakota several years later? Probably.
It was.
Okay.
It was.
I can't remember.
It wasn't until the last couple. Yeah, it wasn't until the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years that sometimes I'll carry a 20 gauge upland. Depends on where we're at, what the conditions are. But I like to try my luck at using a little less pellets there, I guess.
So when you went up to Hiawatha for that first pheasant hunt, your first upland experience, was your business partner kind of explaining to you the strategies of this is a little different than duck hunting and this is how this is going to go? And what do you remember about kind of going into that for the first time? Was just kind of...
Here's what I remember, and it was being nervous because it was so much different than waterfowl hunting. Waterfowl hunting, you're sitting there, they come to you,
right?
And that's good, and it, I guess, as opposed to upland game hunting, to me, is definitely more challenging. I mean, it's physically challenging. You're on the hunt, truly hunting for them. And I remember that ride up there of him kind of giving me the game plan of how we're going to walk in a line and trying to explain blockers and you know, I was, we didn't have that many people. I think we only had 9 or 10 people in the field that day, and just maybe 3 dogs. And, you know, I just remember I didn't want to hurt anyone or anything. So I was pretty conservative on putting the gun to my shoulder, but, that first bird was the very end of the day, and there was nobody going to shoot this bird but me. And I drew up on it and couldn't believe it. I dropped it with 1 shot. I was pretty proud of myself.
There you go. There you go. Wow. Today, would you think that has the upland kind of become more interesting to you than the waterfowl, or you still kind of like that duck hunting when it really comes down? I know you have labs, but obviously I know you use your labs a lot for upland hunting as well. So if you had a choice today, would you still go to the waterfowl, do you think?
You know what, Wade? I would say if I could go every weekend, I would love to go upland game hunting.
Oh, okay.
It is, I really love walking through the fields and putting a little sweat on and watching the dogs work, the camaraderie of, you know, just the folks out there in the field. Nothing against duck hunting. I think I do duck hunting more just out of pure convenience. I mean, I can be at a duck blind. We have a duck club that I belong to. I mean, it's like 35 minutes from my door. So that makes it pretty easy. And you don't need a bunch of people to go waterfowl hunting. Upland game hunting in the state of Kansas is completely different. You need an army of people. And, you know, just unfortunately, you know, a lot of my friends all have families, and trying to get us all together on any particular day is just like an act of Congress. So we pretty much pencil in opening day every year. And I can say in the last, I don't know, 20, 25 years, I can only think of a few that I've missed. And last year being one of them. I would rather upland hunt if I had that opportunity every day.
Now, at some point, like we all have, at some point you go, gosh, this dog thing is really cool. And I really like being in the field, watching these dogs do what the dogs do and making retrieves and finding birds. And when did that kind of grab a hold of you that I think I want to go and get my first hunting companion and invest in that dog and the time and the livelihood of that animal? When did that take place?
Well, I knew pretty early on that I wanted a dog at some point. I really had a really unique luxury. One of my best friends from high school, who is an avid outdoorsman, you know, he went away to college just like I did, but we came back to Kansas City afterwards. And, you know, after he kind of figured out that, you know, I was getting interested in hunting, we started to hang out a lot more together and started hunting together. And he's the one that really got me into, not just furthered along my passion for hunting, but he's also the one that introduced me to his first dog. And his first dog was a black lab named Jake that was trained down at Walter's Kennels in Lacine, Kansas, by a guy by the name of Doug Greiner. God rest his soul. Great guy with dogs. Not sure he was cut out for human beings, but so my friend Dave ended up going to dental school here in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And, you know, not only did his dog Jake go with us every time we hunted, but there were plenty of times while Dave was in dental school that he was just like, hey man, take my dog, come get him. he needs to go hunting, because Dave was busy studying for finals and stuff. And
Right.
I took his dog. Either most of the time it was by myself, or just me and the dog. And I just couldn't believe, how obedient and just what a stud this dog was in the field, whether it was upland or waterfowl hunting. I mean, he was trained to a T. You said sit, he sat. You said here, he came. You pointed that direction and said over. By God, he stopped and went that direction. It was truly unbelievable. And I mean, I loved his dog just as much as he did, because we spent a ton of time together. And the hanging out with his dog was really some good therapy for me in some tough times. But he made it easy. He made you to want to go hunting just that much more, because that dog loved it. He couldn't wait to get out to the field. And by God, if you fired your gun and there wasn't something to get, that dog was like, what the heck, man? He just had a way of like looking over his shoulder at you like, what the hell was that?
Rookie.
And rookie, right. So here reminds me of one of my favorite duck hunting stories with my buddy Dave, who was the guy in dental school, and our other really good friend from high school, Rob. We used to go down to the Lacine power plant down in Lacine, Kansas, and there was the spillway from where the warm water from the power plant would come out into the main lake. So
Right.
like this lake, even in the dead of winter, it is like, in the upper 40s water temperature. So it never froze. And so like ducks, waterfowl use this place like the entire season, which is, Lacine has Lacine Lake, and then there's Meridocene Federal waterfowl place, like just a couple miles down the road. Anyway, we used to park in this public hunting area, and we would have to walk about a mile to get to where we would hunt on the lake. We didn't have a boat.
Wow.
I mean, it was quite the trek. And I'll never forget the first time going there. There is so much steam rolling off this water. Like you couldn't see like 20 feet in front of you. It was so foggy and everything. And so I had no idea what I was walking into, but you just hear the water rushing to the side of you. But we would walk back, go through the trees and everything, walk way back about a mile, and hunt in a little cove. We're young dudes, we want to pile as many frickin' decoys on our backs as a human can carry. And I mean, we would take 4 dozen decoys back there and set up this big old spread, acted like we knew what we were doing. And it was a ton of fun. But the story is, speaking of Jake the dog and the look, the first time I remember getting the look, it was me and my buddies. It was one of the first times. It was the first time I had ever been there. Rob and Dave had been there a few times before, but I wasn't even blowing a duck call at this point. But we get there at the butt crack, of dark, and have that long walk. We go set up our decoys. We're still wiping sweat from our brow at this point. First group of birds that we see is a flock of like 30 mallards, which those are the ones you want, right?
Right.
And I'll never forget, we're like huddled in on the bank of this lake, like kind of standing half in the water, and our decoys are out there. And by God, my buddy Dave and Rob start calling at these ducks, and they are working, and here they come. And I mean, we wait, and these birds land right in our decoys. And I mean, that can't be more than 30 yards away from us. And it was all like, we're all looking at each other. Are we going to take them? Yeah, let's take them. So, you stand up straight. The ducks are like, huh? They all jump off the water. Here, 3 dudes, 9 shots. And we're all kind of, dust, smoke's cleared here. And we're like, I don't think I hit anything. And my buddy's like, yeah, I saw some feathers, but there's no ducks dead on the water. And the look from that dog was like, what the heck just happened? 9 shots, not a duck to be found, laying on the water. It was a classic moment.
It happens,
but one I'm happy to tell the story about. Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, we've all had the look before. I've had it plenty of times, but and so what was his? I mean, if you had ducks out there, I'm guessing would he have stayed put until he was sent, or how would he do?
Absolutely, he was absolute, special forces dog. I mean, he wouldn't go get those ducks until you gave him either back or yelled his name as he was at a heel. And he was truly remarkable dog, and like I said, could take hand signals in the water. He could take hand signals on land, do blind retrieves, the whole 9 yards. My buddy Dave actually got him up to a junior hunter certification. So that was like my first experience hunting with like a good dog. And I was like, man, I want one of these, and I want one of these, but I was young, I was single, I was working my butt off at the time, and I just didn't quite have it in me to put that effort into finding a dog and training a dog and all that. So I think my buddy Dave knew this and saw that I had the same kind of fever, if you will, that he did about hunting. And he ended up moving to Montana, and that would have been about late 90s sometime, maybe 2000. But he ended up moving up there to Montana, up by Kalispell and Glacier National Park. And he ended up studying his dog out up there with another couple's dog. And he had a litter that he got to pick, the pick of the litter.
Yeah.
And he called me up and he's like, Tom, I got your dog. Oh. I'm like, what? He's like, I picked your dog out. And I'm like, no, man, I'm not ready for that. And by God, if my buddy Dave didn't put that 9-week-old puppy in his car and drove him from Montana all the way to Kansas City.
Oh, wow.
And I'll never forget, I got my puppy, which I ended up naming Luke, got him on the 4th of July. And we were out at, there's a community here in Kansas City called Lake Quivira that the three of us, Dave, Rob, and I had done a ton of fishing at when we were in high school. And Dave's sister actually lived out there. And he brought me the puppy on the 4th of July out there at Lake Quivira. I'll never forget sitting on the dock, and I was like, man, if this little puppy can not be freaked out by all these fireworks, he might be a half decent gun dog. And he was a great dog.
Yeah. And I can't remember what year that was, but we ended up, for everybody that's listening, we ended up going to a family trip to South Dakota. I don't remember what year that was, Tom, but you...
I was going to say maybe 07, sometime right around in there, 06, 07, I believe. And that was I think you had Lou at the time, and he was young. I believe he might have been maybe 6 to 9 months old, something like that.
I don't know that he was a year old yet. Maybe he was, but yeah, and I got him in '08, so that would be about that time frame that you're talking about in there. So, and he was definitely there, so I got him in '08. Yeah. So that might have been maybe '09, you think? Would have been the season of '09 perhaps, or what? It might have been '08. He'd have been really young.
Yeah.
He was born in May, so he wouldn't have been very old then, but.
Well, I remember bringing my dog, and I remember Lou being there. And the other thing I remember, by God, Wade, was none of those crops were cut when we went up there. And I was like,
oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God, this is going to be harder on us than it is on the dogs.
You want to tell that story? You want to tell that story? We probably got a little thing to build in between with Luke becoming a hunting dog, but my understanding was that particular farmer was it Viborg, South Dakota? Yeah,
Viborg, that sounds right.
A little bitty town south of Sioux Falls and close to the Iowa border, but little quaint little town where many, many years before Uncle Hockey had gone for several years, and so anyway.
Oh, that's right.
You remember that? Yeah, that's how we ended up there.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah, and my brother-in-law Steve Nash wanted to kind of make a return trip to the place where he hunted as a little kid. When he was 7, 8, 9 years old, and so we went there. What we didn't know at the time was that this gentleman, nice family, was doing organic farming.
Yeah.
And is it true that organic farming typically is that you don't put herbicides on your corn or any of your crops?
Yes.
Yeah. And
that stuff was, I would imagine, is about as thick as the Vietnam jungle. So.
And mostly cocklebur, if I recall. Oh my God.
Yes, I remembered. I could only imagine how many cockleburs Lou had, because I remember my dog Luke had a few, but he had much shorter hair. I just remember we had your nephew Tim, and I believe both Trav and oh my gosh,
Tyler.
Yeah,
they were both there.
Yep.
Yeah, and.
I don't remember shooting many birds, Wade.
Well, as you know, the problem with the guy with the dog is that you get to push the cover. You're inside the cover with the dogs, which puts a lot of the onus on the guys that are down at the end. That are supposed to be taking the birds when after that long, difficult drive, which in this particular case was a jungle of cockleburs. The birds and you, if you remember that, you could see the birds running ahead of us. I mean, they were in the rows. I can see them. It's just that they were, going to come out the end. There was no question about it. And once in a while, one would pop up, but that stuff was so thick, there's no way you could get a shot in there. Or at least I couldn't. But
you're positioning your gun between the Milo stocks. That was a challenge, to say the least. So anyway,
the guys at the end were going to be carrying the load of harvesting the birds, and if I recall, I don't remember a lot of shots coming off the end either.
No, I don't think there's a lot of shots anywhere, but by God, we had a good time.
Yeah, I just remember when Lou came out the end, and I saw him after he came out into the open. It looked like he was wearing snowshoes. He had so many cockleburs in the feathers of his feet that he looked like he was walking on snowshoes. But yeah, it was fun. It was obviously an opportunity to get us all together and get out there for the first time. But now, Luke, it sounds like you probably did more upland with him than you did waterfowl, or did you kind of do both?
No, we did quite a bit of both, actually. I mean, excuse me, that was a time period when me and just a couple of buddies would go out to central Kansas and just on a random weekend and go hunting, whether it just be for for quail or pheasant or whatever we could come across. But he did do a decent amount of upland hunting. And this is before I was in this duck club that I'm in now.
Oh,
so,
okay.
the waterfowl hunting I did back in the day was absolutely, public hunting, which, is a challenge in itself and a huge, even a bigger commitment, maybe not financially, but, but a huge commitment because you had to beat everybody out there and to get set up and stuff. And then you're dealing with people, shooting at birds that are 80 yards away and 300 yards away from you. And it just, that made me realize that, hey, if having private property is the way it's at. But yes, old Luke got to do plenty of upland hunting. As a matter of fact, you just reminded me of a good story about old Luke. We were hunting, myself and Rob and Dave, which we all three had dogs. Jake ended up passing away, but Dave also got a dog out of Jake's litter. So we had brothers, and he would occasionally drive back from Montana and bring the dog with him. And anyway, so we were hunting up by Concordia, Kansas, pheasant and quail, and I think we maybe had 8 guys and like 3 dogs, so enough to make something happen. But I'll never forget, we had reserved a hotel right there in Concordia, and of course we just assumed that, hey, this is a heart of pheasant country, they'd allow dogs in the room. And that wasn't the case when we got to this hotel. So, I was like, man, these dogs have worked all day. There's no way, going to leave them out in a cold car. These, that's not the way you treat a dog after a hard day's work, right? And so we asked them, well, hey, is there anywhere else we can go here in town? And they're like, oh, yeah, there's this little motel down the road. You can probably get a room there. And yeah, they had a lot of vacancy. Let's just put it that way.
But it was dog friendly, right?
It was dog friendly, but by God, I don't know how human friendly it was. It was on the borderline of human friendly. So, me and my buddies took a look at each other and we're like, you know what? I'm not staying here. But guess what? Our dogs are. And so we got a room and threw our hunting coats on the ground, told the dogs to kennel, and they laid on our coats. And I mean, we dropped them off there at about, 11 o'clock at night, picked them up the next morning at 6, and by God, they were still laying on our coats in that motel. Like nothing had happened.
They hadn't called room service or anything, huh? Oh my!
No, they didn't make a mess of the place. I mean, God love these dogs. I mean, they were so exhausted that you just told them to kennel on your jacket. And I mean, there's a bed right there, but oh man, they weren't going to do that. They were such good dogs. It's really sad that they don't last as long as we do, and having to see them come and go, and it's that window of having that companion. You might get 10, 12 good years out of them, and I hate to see them go. That has not been a highlight of my hunting career.
No, it's
watching the dogs go.
It's pretty tough. Especially when you travel with these dogs, and like you said, they're in your, you're sleeping with them either in a truck or in a motel, or I mean, they're sleeping on you in the truck, or as you're traveling, whatever. I mean, they're just a part of your family, and that's just it, So when it's time for them to go, it's really hard, really hard.
So I remember the first season that I hunted without Luke. He had passed away, I believe it was September. So, right before the season. And, that was tough, but I still went, even though it was, my first year without my hunting companion. And, I distinctly remember I had his ashes with me, and we were out near Victoria, Kansas, which is where I go pheasant hunting for opening day every year. And I'm pretty sure it was the first field, maybe second field that we walked into. Had an opportunity, bird got up within range, one shot, dropped it, and I remember how excited I was, just at bringing the gun to the shoulder and actually, getting one on one shot. But the next part of it is watching your dog go get it.
Yeah.
And my buddy wasn't there. And, I just remember how that feeling of going up and getting my own bird and kind of like, man, that was him like looking down on me and saying, here you go, Dad, here's an easy one for you.
Yeah.
And, just taking that little pause in the field and just, remembering him and all our good times together. It was really a nice little moment, but I distinctly remember having that little, flutter in the chest of, oh, my buddy's not here with me.
Yeah.
But
it changes things. It really does. We lost Adeline a few months ago, so this will be the first hunting season we haven't really had her. But she was 13 and a half. She was starting to have a lot of physical challenges, and like setters, you get a 13-year-old setter, that's pretty good. Their life expectancy is kind of that 11 to 12-year window if you're lucky, and so actually got a little extra mileage out of her. But she was a good one, and you just go, well, she would have. I hunted as much as I could, and that's kind of one of the things that you do because that window is short, so you don't want to miss a season. You don't want to miss an opening day if you can avoid it, because how many more of those are you going to have left? But we always try to keep a line of dogs out of our original guy, and so I can say that. I've probably got enough young dogs right now to get me to the end. We got a lot of dogs. We got a lot of dogs, and they're young dogs. So hopefully we'll have lots of dogs to hunt in the next few years. But it's tough. But that's part of it. It's a part of the.
Yeah, it is.
That's a part of that dedication and that love that they give you. That that time's coming, and now you got to do the right thing by them, and that's sometimes pretty difficult to do.
Yeah, and it's that extra motivation to get up and go do those things. I get just as much enjoyment out of watching dogs work as I do, taking birds in the field. If anything, I think I get more enjoyment out of it. But I haven't had the best of luck. My first dog, Luke, lasted till about 10 years, and he ended up having lupus, which is just like a crazy, weird disease for that to be his demise. But, later on in life, it made a lot of sense at some of the ailments he had in his last couple of years. But, he went pretty quickly. Yeah. And we didn't, have to see him like deteriorate over a long period of time. And then my last dog, Chief, and that's the reason why I missed this past year, is like Chief unexpectedly passed like right at the beginning of October of this past year, and he had a big old freaking tumor growing on his lung, and it didn't stop him from doing hardly a thing. And I thought, oh man, even with it, maybe he'll make it this year. And he didn't. So I was pretty darn bummed out. So I just couldn't get myself to get out there this past year.
Now, have you hunted other breeds of dogs, and how do you kind of, as far as upland hunting. I know you've hunted setters, but you've hunted with mine, but many years ago. But how do you kind of? It sounds like everybody in your group of guys are all lab hunters for the most part. Or you got anybody else that's got other breeds?
Not of my high school buddies and the guys I still hunt with is all been labs, but another gentleman that I spent quite a bit of time in the field with, he was, he's quite a bit older than me. He's probably at least 15 years older than me, but he had his black labs that he used for waterfowling, and then he also had Irish setters. So probably before I had met you and Lou and the Kisner crew, I was hunting with my buddy Tom and his English setters, and we did a lot of quail hunting in central Kansas, and occasionally would get a pheasant or two, but man, he had great dogs, and let me tell you, having a dog that can point birds is like so much easier than this just having a flushing dog. But it's kind of like Tom had the luxury of having a different club for the occasion, where I did not have that luxury. I just had to go with the most versatile club I could get, which I've always thought was a lab. So,
right.
But English setters always were, great dogs to hunt behind, just because, they covered a lot of ground, and, pointing the birds is just, that makes it pretty easy. That dials it in for you pretty good.
Yeah. So quail are still pretty, that's still a tough racket as far as the challenge of them, even though that dog's locked up and there's probably potentially a covey of birds there. When they come out of there, it still is anybody's game.
Yeah.
At least for me, anyway.
Well, I think that first flush for sure. There are challenges to it, but having that pointing dog after that, to where you can go, single out a couple of birds from that covey once it busts, is you can't get better than that. No. In my opinion,
watching a good pointing dog work quail, that's about the epitome of bird dog hunting for me, and that's how I grew up doing that down in Missouri. Many years ago, my granddad had a farm, and that's what we hunted was quail. I never saw a pheasant until I moved to Iowa 40 years ago. But
oh, really?
No. I mean, we just didn't see them in our area of. I don't know why. I mean, the old timers used to say there was something about the soil, that the pheasants would not stay in that area. I don't know if that was true or not, but I can tell you that I don't remember ever seeing one in all the years that. And, if they were around, you would have encountered one sooner or later, in a field or in a timbered edge or something, or fence row. Never did. So I have to think the old guys knew what they were talking about, probably. But
I think it has something to do with their reproduction, and the soil content there in western Missouri just isn't conducive to it. But it's crazy how you can go, straight north of Kansas City, or that Hiawatha, Kansas area, the Marysville, Missouri. I've pheasant hunted up in that area before as well, and gotten birds. And then I came up to Iowa and hunted with you and the boys, and had an opportunity to shoot birds there. But that you just remind me of so this would have been early in my buddy's days up in Montana. I used to go up there about twice a year, and we'd call it the cast and blast, because I would bring my fly rods and my shotgun up to Montana, and he lived on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation right outside of Browning, Montana.
Oh, my.
Dare you to look that one up on the map. But you could get back in that time, I'm sure it's still the same, but you didn't have to buy a Montana state license to hunt on the Indian reservation. And the reservation was like just barely the plains right off the foothills of the mountain range there. So we would, during the middle of the day, we would trout fish in all these lakes and streams that were up there. But in the morning, we'd either go duck hunting because there were places you could go duck hunt, or there were pheasant there as well. I wouldn't say they were as prevalent as I've seen in Kansas or Iowa or even northern Missouri, but nonetheless, we knew a couple of areas where we could go and hunt them, and yeah, that was a ton of fun.
I was going to say, boy, that's probably kind of a mecca out there now, isn't it? I mean, I don't know what it was like then, but have you been out there recently in the last few years?
I have not. Something happened to me. I don't know. What was that? About 17 years ago, Wade? You might know something about that.
Wow.
And lo and behold, I don't get to Montana very often, and certainly not to do guy things. But I haven't been out there in a lot of years. But my kids are getting a little older now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think the time you just reminded me of this one too, that we had the opportunity to hunt out there in Montana was so my buddy Dave was a dentist on this Indian reservation working for the Commissioned Corps, and there aren't a whole lot of healthcare providers in that area. I mean,
Yeah.
He handled a lot of different stuff when it came to dentistry and just we're even talking like minor oral surgery and stuff, but also people from other communities, rural communities out there would come to the reservation to get dental work as well. And one of the gentlemen was the leader of was what's called a Hooterite colony out there in central Montana. I'm trying to think. I feel like it was a town was called like Depuyer or something, Montana. Anyway, Hooterites are much like Mennonites. They grow their own crops. They live in a centralized community where everything's like shared. It's very communal. They make a lot of their own clothes. I mean, they use mechanical farm equipment. They drive cars and all that. But as far as a close knit community and keeping traditional things, they did that. There was a community right outside of Depuyer. Anyway, so my buddy Dave does dental work for this guy David, and who's the leader of this colony. And he tells my buddy Dave that, hey, if you ever want to come out and go hunting, just let me know, and you can have the lay of the land out there.
Wow.
And, you can hunt it all. And I mean, that's a big thing in the state of Montana. I mean, they've got it all out there. They got pronghorns, they got deer, they got elk, they got it all. Well, one thing that they have down near his Hooterite colony was Hungarian partridge.
Oh yeah.
And to my knowledge, you don't really see those things to maybe western Nebraska and like South Dakota, Wyoming, and obviously Montana. But we went and took, let's see, at that time, my buddy Dave still had Jake and his son, Hank, who was my Luke's brother. And Dave and I drive out to this Hooterite colony to go Hungarian partridge hunting. Didn't know anything about it. Didn't know if they covied or if they acted like quail. I mean, the only thing we knew were pheasant and quail. So he had done some grouse hunting there, but that's a whole nother thing, right? But so we get out there and we're loading up getting the dogs out of the boxes and loading up our guns, and right on kind of the edge of town there. And oh my gosh, Wade, here comes a pickup truck full of dudes just barreling across this field at us. And I'm like,
this don't look good.
Hey, Dave. Yeah, this does not
are
look
these
good,
friendlies?
Well, yeah, that was like, let's put our guns down kind of moment, and these guys all come rolling in hot right up to us. I mean, there, 5 guys in the cab of this truck and another 4 jump out of the back, stern looking gentlemen, wearing their wide brimmed hats and their clothing that all looks pretty familiar, and their beards. And I'm like, oh dear God. And this guy jumps out and he's like, hey fellas, what do you think you're doing? And my buddy Dave replies like, well, we're going to go hunting. He's like, oh yeah, you are you? And I'm like, oh geez, this is not going well. And he's like, all of a sudden my buddy Dave's like, yeah, David said we could come out and hunt here. And oh my gosh, thank goodness. Like the look on these dudes' faces when he dropped David's name was like a complete freaking 180. I was like, oh, thank God. I thought these guys were going to wrangle us up or something, but
we'd never
all
be
of a sudden
heard from
they're like
again.
Right. All of a sudden we're their best buddies. And, oh man, come have some mead with us. Here, you got to try this jerky. And like, oh my gosh, thank goodness that happened. I was pretty puckered up, but man, what a great experience being out there. And I mean, me and Dave walked these fields all day long. Those poor dogs, it was so dry and dusty out there. Those dogs couldn't smell jack. And I mean, we're out there just hoofing it all day long. And I mean, it is God's country there, but it is not easy ground to upland hunt. And, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know where these birds would be. We figured, pheasant and quail like cover. They like to be down in the gullies and the edges of the fields and stuff. That was not where we encountered these partridge. And as a matter of fact, it wasn't until the very end of the day that we even had an opportunity to shoot one of them, because we'd been walking all day, not seeing anything. But these things would camp out around the edges of like the hills, like not on the top of the hill, but like the sides of the hill, right where it started to slope down, shockingly. And Dave and I'll never forget, we had both taken a knee and we're like drinking some water and like, good God, we should probably just go, man. This has been brutal, but we don't know what we're doing. And we're kneeling there, and all of a sudden you hear this little whistle that was not something we had ever heard before. And I was like, hey man, did you hear that? He's like, I did. And we're like, I think we're like sitting around him and we're making them nervous because we're not moving. You can do that. Happens sometimes when you're pheasant hunting.
Right,
you walk, and then you stop for a minute, and then they're like, "Oh God, they're not coming. What's going on?" Same sort of situation. We heard this little strange whistle. We're like, I think it came from that direction. So we just started walking that direction. 20 yards. Here, a bird gets up. Boom, dropped it. We're like, all right. Well, we finally figured something out, and then we stopped and waited, another not even 20 seconds. Like, okay, I heard a whistle that way. So we start walking that way. And we ended up shooting 3 birds, but like in the last maybe 30 minutes of hunting there. But by God, we earned it that day. That's for sure.
Are they kind of like, they're a little bigger than a quail, right?
Yeah, I would say they're not as big as a grouse. I would say they are maybe pigeon sized, if you will.
Okay.
It's between about a pigeon and a grouse. I think a grouse is even bigger. So, but it didn't look dissimilar from a quail or anything. But by God, I mean, we really earned those birds that day. And,
oh boy, sounds like it.
Had a good story or two to tell because of it.
I bet. Well, we're going to probably get close to wrapping up. We've had a lot of fun talking with you tonight. But do you have, if you had a favorite dog story, do you have one in mind that we haven't talked about yet? I mean, that first retrieve, or if you had, and that could be about any of the dogs that you hunted. But we certainly have the one we will call the Look from now on. But
yeah, the Look, that is for sure. What's funny is I don't have any great dog stories with my own dogs, as sad as that sounds. Besides, those first retrieves, I remember those first retrieves with my dogs, and those were great. But I got to go back to my buddy Jake, my buddy Dave's dog Jake. I had a lot of great memories with his dog and a lot of great stories. I mean, this is back in the day before these mechanical decoys and some of the stuff they have for waterfowling. But it also was that Lacine Lake, that Trail of Tears walk, and this moment was a memorable one for me. So it was Jake and myself hunting alone, and I had put out the decoys. We were hunting on the other side of this cove, which is just because of the way the wind was blowing, and I had a couple of what are they called? Buffle heads fly by, and I was like, I've got to shoot something because we've been out here all day and the dog hasn't, I haven't dropped anything. So I literally, these two birds swooped down and I knew they weren't going to land. And shockingly, this is in, a good day for me. I had the pair come in and I dropped them both. I only winged one of them though, and the other one dropped like a sack of potatoes. So I'm lining up Jake. Jake, back, and Jake runs out there, grabs this bird, and comes back. Well, Bufflehead is a diving duck. So this other cripple is swimming around out there. He cannot get off the water, but by now he's a good 100 yards out, and I distinctly remember going, man, should I send him out? But Jake sees this damn duck, and I mean, my buddy Dave would laugh at this, but his dog used to whimper like crazy. If you like shot and didn't see anything or hit anything, he would whimper his head off. But he saw this duck and he wanted to go get it. I was like, all right, it's pretty far out there, but okay, Jake, he's tromping through the water going after this duck, and I mean it's swimming away from him when he's out, so he's getting further and further away from me. And by God, Jake gets about 10 yards away and that duck dives down in the water. I'm like, oh boy. So Jake is doing circles around where this duck was at, waiting for it to pop back up. And mind you, Wade, I'm looking and I'm like, oh Jesus, he is getting lower and lower and lower in the water, because this duck comes up and he's swimming after it, and then it dives again. And I'm like, it got to a point after about the second or third dive, I'm like, oh my God, dude, there's no way I'm going to call this dog off this duck.
Yeah. I'm
going to have to strip my waders off and go out there and get my buddy's dog, swim out there in the 50-degree water. But I was like, he's going to kill himself going after this duck. And I was like, oh my God, I could not make that phone call to my buddy Dave. Yeah. Hey man, your dog drowned out here. And, but by God, I'm yelling, Jake here, and he is not coming. And finally the duck dove and didn't come back up. And Jake starts swimming back. I'm like, oh, thank God. But I mean, his nostrils were barely out of the water by the time he got back to me. But man, I thought, oh geez, I'm going to have to get out of my waders and go for a swim here. But didn't happen. But that was a good one.
So why do you think the duck finally just died under the water or something and just didn't come back up, or what?
Yeah, they do. They do that. They'll, like those diving ducks they'll go down and clamp onto some grass or something out of the water and croak down there and not come up. I mean, I've had it happen before. Yeah, I mean, I try not to shoot. Now that I've got a little bit more, tenure, if you will, under me, I can distinguish what kind of duck is what by now by when they're flying over and just choose, hey, that's a diver. I'm not going to shoot it. We're looking for puddle birds and, mallards, teal, gadwall, something, wood duck, something like that. But those little rotten divers sometimes do that.
Well, it's a good memory anyway of seeing what that dog was willing to, what he was going to try to do. He was bound determined to get that duck and do everything he could.
Yes, he was.
So it's good that there's a good end to the story, I guess.
Good end of the story. That's right.
But so Tom, I tell you, we really appreciate your time, and I know you're very passionate about not only the hunting, upland hunting, but the dogs. And you're a lot like me, that the dogs kind of take center stage for me, and just watching what they do. And when they're not there, it's kind of, it's okay. I'm with a few buddies, but it's not the same not having the old guy out here with me. But hopefully you can keep that going. I know you got a new young dog in the pipeline, and hopefully that one will turn out to be another Jake and Luke, and you'll have many, many years of hunting ahead. Hopefully I'll get a chance to hunt over one of that dog someday.
Well, I sure hope so. Old Luke Jr.'s at dog college right now, and I've been told he won't be done till about March, so much to my family's dismay. But
he'll be ready.
Wade, I'm anxious to get your butt down here so we can do some,
I know.
Whether it's upland or do some easy work. The waterfowl.
I think the last time I hunted with you, it was about 22 degrees below zero, if I recall. Man, I was.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about. Up in. God, was that? It was north of Hiawatha, or not Hiawatha, Bethany. Was that Maryville?
It was. It was in northwest Missouri, someplace up there. I just.
Oh my God!
I know that when I picked Tyler up that morning at about 3 a.m. to make the drive down there. I think the temperature on the truck said 22 below zero. I think, and I remember.
Oh man!
And I remember we got to the interstate, and we're both kind of thinking, what the hell are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing? And it's like, when the sun comes up, it'll warm up. Yeah. At about 5 below.
No.
About 5 below, it'll warm up. But we had a good time chasing birds down there that particular day.
I don't think we chased the damn thing, because I'll never forget. When we rolled into that parking spot to go bird hunting, I was like all excited because there was like fresh snow on the ground, and you could see pheasant tracks. They were around. I was like, oh sweet, this is going to be great. But by God, we took one step out of that vehicle, and that snow was so crispy, and the wind wasn't blowing that day, and it was like, oh man, they're going to hear us coming a mile away.
Yeah, it was pretty miserable.
Yeah, it was. It was hard on the hunter that day.
Yeah. But it was fun. It's always fun. It's always those are the times that you remember, and that's what Memories from the Field is all about. The little radio thing that we do is collecting those memories from the past and those little gems, and sharing those with other listeners. And so we appreciate your time and appreciate your stories, and hopefully we'll make some more.
Yeah, let's do that. I thanks for having me talk with you, Wade. I really enjoyed it. It's always fun talking about the escapades in the field.
This episode brought to you by way of our sponsors. Highland Hideaway Hunting Preserve in Riverside, Iowa, with over 1,500 acres of meticulously managed and maintained preserve. Book your hunt today at highlandhunting.com. And Interstate Grain Service. Family owned since 1981, we offer personalized service with product and feed knowledge. Competitive pricing on numerous brands, including Purina, Nutrina, Kinetic, and Diamond. Stop in today at our retail location off I-380 in Center Point, Iowa. and Kinetic Performance Dog Food. Kinetic's line of premium dry food and supplements provides clean, sustainable energy for everyday active, sporting, and working dogs. Visit kineticdogfood.com for details.